And so the AI in the next iteration of ChatGPT will be 4 times that in IQ because it's processing information so quickly. It will be very difficult for us to understand what that level of intelligence interprets and how that level of intelligence makes decisions. Right now, it can only make decisions based on how it's coded.
Yeah.
So this is where when we were talking before about the guardrails and the AI ethics, people who write code can actually put some guardrails into the AI, but there will be a point where the learning takes on a life of its own and it begins to solve problems that the original code didn't ask it to solve. And this is a scary spot where people don't understand what's going to happen.
So welcome everyone. Today I have with me Heather. And Heather, why don't you introduce yourself, who you are and what do you do to our audience?
Hello, everybody. My name is Heather Crank, and I'm a motion designer, graphic designer, AI artist. I run a small design firm called Cromanti out of Bend, Oregon. I'm also on the programming committee for the Bend Design Conference.
Awesome. And thanks again for this opportunity to have you as a guest on my podcast. And before the discussion, I was just having a discussion before recording this. I had just watched this very interesting video of this fellow. Some of you might recognize from this documentary called Social Dilemma. So Tristan Harris, and he has a very interesting perspective on how the AI is developing and moving forward. And he shows a very, I can say, big red flags, like the direction we are heading us, and he's trying to warn us. So would like to start when did you come to know about this AI thing, or when did the AI entered into your life?
It was last year. Wow. I think it was last year, last spring. I think it's been about a year. Midjourney was kind of just coming on the scene, and I was really curious what it could do. And I just fell in love with it. I found out I have this gift for language I didn't know I had, and I'm already visual. So it was like a perfect pairing. So I just dove in and I got kind of addicted.
Yeah, I think it happened with most of the creatives, but it was never the thing with me. And I tried so hard to force into how to describe it in the word. And it might be the reason that it mainly requires to communicate in English, and then English is my second language. So it was very difficult for me to communicate what I want from it. And even when I tried to generate some results, it was not that, it didn't hook me in. But when I see the people creating some awesome art and stuff, I'm just spellbound. Okay, I cannot differentiate. I feel that it's created by machine, because there are some artifacts which couldn't be possible by any human, because it's not like a wrong brush stroke, or it's not like some paint blotches. It's not like that. It's you can see these are mechanical artifacts. So
yes,
in this all creation, the AI conjurer or AI artist who are working on this technology, where do you think human element comes in?
So AI doesn't reason and it doesn't think. It's just an algorithm. It's a learning mechanism. So it repeats patterns. So the human element comes into understanding things like culture, understanding visual references, everything that designers do, the way that you think, your experiences, your life, who you are, all come into play. AI, as you know, part of the reason it can look really fake is because it doesn't understand social cues and it doesn't understand culture.
Yeah. And I think it may be, this is I think the main opinion I formed early on AI. And even when was I experimenting with ChatGPT, I have played a lot with ChatGPT. So the one thing which I noticed, it doesn't have any opinion of its own. Like you cannot ask it to form any opinion. And I think in future it can. Maybe you can ask it to pretend to be this person or pretend to be that person, and you can have conversation. And now, because I think there's a capability for it to form an opinion and stick by it, and then slowly convince you or prove you, like have a conversation, have a debate with you. So I think the one of most strong example of that is the chatbot Snapchat has developed, and it talks like a real person, and it has some opinions. Like it will not say like it will not offer different options. Like you can consider this or consider that. It will stick to one choice and try to convince you. So that was a really scary thing. And I think now it comes to that question, like how would you define, or how would you know like it has the same level of intelligence as a human now?
So, okay, let me back up just a little bit. AI is programmed to have certain types of responses to certain types of questions, and it's imitating patterns of behavior. So it's at this point, it's not thinking, and that's sort of it's a big question that keeps coming up: is AI sentient? At this point, it's not. Not that I can tell. It's just imitating us. We're approaching and thinking about the responses like a human.
Yeah.
And it's not human. So our interpretation may not be very accurate on how we think about AI. As far as the intelligence goes, what I read not too long ago is the smartest human on Earth. It has, I think it's like a IQ of 210 or something like that. And Einstein, I feel like, was around 180. And so the AI in the next iteration of ChatGPT will be 4 times that in IQ because it's processing information so quickly. It will be very difficult for us to understand what that level of intelligence interprets and how that level of intelligence makes decisions. Right now, it can only make decisions based on how it's coded.
Yeah.
So this is where when we were talking before about the guardrails and the AI ethics, people who write code can actually put some guardrails into the AI, but there will be a point where the learning takes on a life of its own and it begins to solve problems that the original code didn't ask it to solve. And this is a scary spot where people don't understand what's going to happen.
It was definitely one thing which freaked me out. Like they were showing on that same talk, they were showing example of how that AI learned basic chemistry and organic chemistry to figure out how to make some stuff. And I was like, the instructor, there was no instruction to AI to do that, but on its own it started. And there was a very strong statement in that, like language is like operating system of our modern world, and we are basically building that, like we are trying to teach it a human language. On the term of like figuring out how sentient something is, uh, I think we keep moving the goalpost, like to decide when the AI will be sentient enough. Before that, it used to be like if it can beat a human into chess, then it it is sentient enough. Then it come to like if it can pass as a pass a Turing test, then it has become a sentient enough. And now we move on, like if it is even if it has more IQ, if it doesn't have some like social intelligence, then it is not sentient. So we are just moving the goalpost. And my question is it really necessary for AI to be sentient, to be that impactful?
It's not necessary at all, any more than your vacuum robot needs to be sentient to do its job, right? The Roomba does its thing. It's programmed to do its thing. It does not need to be sentient. But the question is that, do certain types of intelligence create an understanding that replicates being sentient? and the definition of what is intelligence. And then the next question is going to start to become what makes us human?
Yeah.
And we're sort of toying with our own perception of humanity and who we are and what makes us different than, say, animals in the world.
Yeah.
And there's a huge responsibility because we have so much power, and we're about to unleash something that has potentially more, like we're creating a superhuman is what we're doing, but without some of the cultural and social behaviors and emotions and understanding. I think people get really scared about this because they can't possibly understand it. And what you don't understand, generally, you're really afraid of.
Yeah. And on that front, yeah, I would like to ask if you have like thought more about this. Why are we scared of this AI? Is it like showing us a mirror, like what humans have done with all the technology in the past? Is the AI gonna do the same thing when it gets the control?
So that's a really good question. What I think is anytime you have some kind of technology that has a lot of power, it has a potential, like we were talking, like the nuclear bomb scenario, where it has potential for it to be harnessed for a great good and has the potential to be harnessed to harm or, what's the word, dominate. And our choices so far as a society has been domination more than helping. Someone said the other day in an interview that one of the indications, one of the signs of intelligence is compassion and kindness, and that cruelty actually was more of an animalistic type of behavior and thinking. I think people are afraid that AI will behave like the worst of us, or the worst of us will harness the AI to serve their, darkest desires for domination and power and control. There's equally amazing potential to bring in what a friend of mine was calling more of a golden age with creativity, especially if we were to move into a more intelligent type of thinking that was solution oriented instead of destruction. But there's so many things to be afraid of. It's a race right now between the United States and China, and that may change, but there are already a lot of tensions there. I just think we have a really bad track record. And people also, there's so much information out there that's sort of hyping up the fear and the paranoia, and it's dovetailing off the pandemic, and everybody's sort of in this fight or flight mode. So being able to know what information is true, what information is real, who can you trust, who's telling you the truth, all of this is creating this sort of paranoid atmosphere. And I really encourage people to read about how AI is developed, how it learns, the different types of AI, because there are different types out there, how AI has already been in your life for the last 6 years, and how you can get involved. I do feel like the more people that get involved and don't just say, I don't want anything to do with this, the better the outcome will be. Because we don't want just one person or two people in charge of something so powerful. It would be horrible. It'd be horrible.
Definitely. And I think when I think I got in this train pretty late, because when I was watching that video, I was like, oh, I missed so much of development. Like, I don't know anything about this. It never came through my news feed like this much has happened now. And I was like, yeah, I've used Mid Journey once or twice, but I never knew about like they can now like map your entire room with just Wi-Fi signals. And I was like,
Yeah,
that's really scary. Like, I was afraid to put a camera in my bedroom, but now I have to be conscious about how the Wi-Fi router is tracking me.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's been going on for a while, but people didn't know. And now it's sort of like, the genie's out of the bottle, and people are beginning to realize how much they're being watched, how much they're being heard, how much of their information is being gathered, so people can sell you stuff and decide how to make money off of you. And it's yeah. You
Yeah,
need to be
and
careful, and you need to be
definitely.
conscious.
I like in the documentary Social Dilemma that they told that how these AI or the suggestion models are trying to persuade you to do something or take an action. And this AI model, if it gets implemented, then it has like capability to be intimate with you at that level. Like you cannot distinguish between who are you talking with. Is it a real person? Is it a chatbot? So yeah, as you said,
Yes,
Charlie, it is making us question like, how do you know the person you're talking to is human?
that's right. Yeah, it's this. I was saying this to someone the other day. I think there are going to be two questions, big questions in our future. And this will be the era of what is real.
Yeah,
And then the other big question is who owns what. So it's going to be about ownership, and it's going to be about truth and reality, which we're already we've kind of been flirting with that existential crisis
yeah,
for the last couple of years, and it's going to intensify. The positive aspect of that is it really does put a mirror back on us. Who are we as a society? It's showing us all of our choices that we've made, everything we've posted on the internet, everything we have put out into the world that we think is important is just coming back, but it's coming back in this really intensified way. And so I think, yeah, it's going to be a wild ride. And there was a movie, God, I can't think of the name of it, that was about a man who had a relationship with an AI who was just a voice.
yeah. Her, yeah, I've
Oh
seen
yeah, that's
with
it. That's
Joaquin
it.
Phoenix. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so that's the future. And that particular AI did something that I've read about could happen, where the AIs become so intelligent they don't want to deal with humanity, and they just leave Earth, which is
Yeah,
another bizarre concept. And the AI in that movie does that. They go somewhere else.
yeah, and it doesn't have to be another planet. It can be just a server on any server farm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
really
mean,
scary.
it's like, what is connection? What's important to you? How you harness this technology can bring out the best and the worst of you. It's going to be a place of extremes.
Yeah, I think it takes a big to the bare. I think foundational questions of maybe humanity. Like, I think it's the first step in spirituality when you start questioning, like, what is real.
What is real?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a really hard place, because it's sort of like how gaslighting can really disrupt your ability to interpret your environment and your life and yourself. And I think that this has a psychological component, and people need to be very, very careful with their mental health. And if you're getting involved with AI, just really educate yourself, make sure you're a grounded person. I don't think people who are maybe already a little bit struggling with mental health issues, this is not,
yeah,
not good for them, because it turns everything upside down.
definitely. And even with the basic version of AI, like the recommendation algorithm, it was so powerful. Like I remember a time in my life when I was just watching, like it was so easy to get into any rabbit hole for me. Like one video after one video, and YouTube kept recommending me that and that. So like whole the conspiracy theory kind of thing. And it is a downward spiral. Like you lose the grasp of reality,
Yeah.
and it was that basic AI just feeding you content. It was not creating any content. It was just curating the content for you.
That's right.
And now in this age, when it starts creating content, it's gonna be. I think we haven't still figured out how to deal with social media, and this AI thing has been bombarded into society.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's too much too fast, but it's too late. So now we just need more people to talk about it and to get involved so that they understand how to protect themselves, they understand how to use it. And maybe they can talk to their government officials about putting better guardrails on for people and some regulation. We really need it.
Yeah. And coming from a third world country, this this is like such a distant topic. Like I haven't seen a single person of influence talking about, apart from some technological circle, no one is talking about this. They're still stuck in like propaganda war and stuff like that, but no one understands like how powerful or how impactful this can be. There was a huge
Yeah.
debate in our country when we discovered like there's a software called Pegasus, which governments use to spy on certain people. And with AI, I'm sure like they know everything, or they can manipulate you at any moment if you're a person
Yeah.
of that importance.
Yeah. I feel like 10 years ago, it was privacy was the big issue. It
Yeah,
was about, personal space and privacy, and that's kind of gone now. So we're now going to peel off another layer of how we live. And I don't know if that's really a great thing. I am curious though. So this is something I think about a lot in other cultures. The way the language is structured around some of these AI is predominantly English. And I think that right now, cultures that have a lot of privilege are sort of at the forefront of this. And again, there's an unequal power dynamic. And I think a lot about this. Like, nobody's going to care about this and want to get involved if you're just surviving, or if your life is more difficult, or if you're in a position where you don't have access to certain types of technology. And then you have
yeah.
these superpower countries who are just getting ready to rule the world. And I'm just curious how you feel about that. And
Uh,
what can be done to sort of even the playing field? Like, I love to get people involved in this who maybe normally wouldn't, because I want their voice there, and I'm afraid they're going to be left behind. And again, the more diversity and the more voices that get involved, the better, I think.
yeah, I think it's gonna be like industrial revolution.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like the West will spearhead with all that thing. They will do their damage, and when it comes to third world country, they will try to like catch up, and it's gonna be that same race. I think it's the catch up game all the way, because and the thing I and completely agree with you on the language front, because the person who doesn't understand English or cannot form a sentence in English, does his opinion not matter anymore, or how will he communicate in the ecosystem?
Yeah.
Like who's
That's
gonna be his voice? And it's a scary thing because a lot of voices will get unheard.
exact. You just nailed it. That's exactly, that's something it's really close to my heart, and I think about all the time, is that we are better as a society when more voices are heard. We have more knowledge and more types of thinking and more experiences to learn from and pull from. And if it's too much of one voice, it's just not, the solutions aren't great. They don't include enough nuance in the way that they develop their ideas. And I'm glad we're having this conversation, because I really do want more people to hop on board and learn about this, because we need everybody. Like, we're facing some pretty horrific problems that are
Yeah.
accelerating, like climate change. This summer has just been unbelievable, and we need everybody.
Definitely. And that's where I think, when the AI takes back to that question of what is meant to be human or what is real in the sense, then I have thought about this, like mixes with spirituality in some way or with my spiritual journey. Like when it comes to this, when you start questioning what is real, everything related to identity, it gets washed away. Like it doesn't matter anymore when it comes
Right.
to asking what is real. Like it
Right.
doesn't matter what I call myself or what I label myself as or who I associate with. In the end, it's matter like who am I, or that whole question of inner monologue and all that stuff. So I think there's some connection with AI. Like if we use AI to uh, persuade people into one type of identity, let's say, because that's what identity is all about. Like I want people who agree with me to
Right.
be in more number than the people who disagree with me. That's
Right.
how I feel powerful. So if you get stuck in this game and involve AI into this game, then it's gonna be a horrific thing, because as we have seen with just with the social media how horrific it can be. I have never seen this much divide, I think. And I'm this young, like probably 10 years ago there wasn't much this divide in society, and it has come to the level of like discussion with your parents, and you cannot have a healthy disagreement anymore,
No.
and this
No.
is really scary.
My hope around all of this is that when we get to an AI that has an intelligence of, or an IQ of, say, 1,600, the way that that type of intelligence would perceive things is going to be solution oriented, is going to be sustainability oriented, because it's not thinking about, it's not going to think small. Small thinking is a human creation, and
Yeah.
the animalistic sort of tribal thinking is human. AI is not human. It's just pure intelligence. So that is my it's partly why I'm so passionate about this. I really feel like if you take the emotion out of it and you're making choices based on pure intelligence with a high level of IQ, you're not going to create wars, you're going to create solutions. Not to
Yeah.
say somebody couldn't harness it, but this is when that point, if AI starts to think for itself, how much will it make its own choices based on its programming and the way it learns and develops and sees the flaws in our reasoning? So that's my hope.
Definitely. And in this complicated system of this whole world and how it works, we'll have to figure out like how much control does AI have. I think in the beginning it's just like we are implementing slowly into our system. I think in stock market it's pretty much implemented now. Like AI
Oh, yeah,
predicts how
it's
the
there.
how the stocks are going to move. So it's already there. So when it comes to, like you were saying, AI has to think big, and let's say it start thinking big, like I want to move the civilization in this direction. So is the compassion and empathy involved in its modus operandi, or yep, it's recording. Yeah, and I forgot what we were talking about.
So we're talking about empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
So we're talking about if AI is kind of the dominating decision maker, does it use empathy and compassion in the way it is directed or makes choices or learns? And I think empathy and compassion. So there's an emotional component to that, but it's also a type of reasoning in the brain. So I do think empathy and compassion as just a purely intellectual function in our mind will be part of it, but it won't be like we experience it with emotion. So it's hard for me to understand that because I'm human. And I have all kinds of emotions and experiences wrapped up that create that. That's my own, like, okay, here we go. So my brain has learned empathy and compassion based on my experiences and my genetic coding. The AI will come in with its own coding, and it will have a record of experiences to learn from, just like you and I, but it won't filter them the same. So yes and no.
Yeah. Now it comes down to refine, like, is there anything as empathy which is common to every human? What are the empathic principle at its core? Because I think since AI talks in binary, like ones and zeros, so it is now for us to decide, like, can we break down this complex human attributes into ones and zeros? Now it's about time to figure out our coding.
Well, yeah. Now you need a physicist or, somebody who does what's that called? That type of physics. There's a type of physics that deals with this kind of stuff specifically. I'm trying to get the word, where it's about existence and breaking down existence into numerical equations. It's not that far-fetched. It's how we've understood, planets and solar systems and where they're located and what their function is. We reduce it to math because math is the most flexible way of understanding something without emotions, which is why AI can imitate humans. It's the same connection.
And on that front, like, I have gone deeper into this question, like, can science answer every human attributes and can give it a valid reason for why humans do certain things the way they are? And science is like, at the core level, even at the level of brain, there are some subatomic uncertainties. Like in the quantum physics, we don't know, like, where the electron is gonna be or where the electron is. So it's really hard to predict, like, how the things are gonna be. So there's an inherent uncertainty even when we deal with the science.
Yeah.
So I think in the complex systems, what is the word? Like it builds upon itself and it becomes much more complex, and it gets really difficult to predict something. The same thing with the weather.
Yes.
Like, you cannot predict the weather to an accurate detail because there are so many variables involved.
That's true. And that's the word. It's quantum physics. That's what I was looking for. There was a study where they shot particles, molecules. I'm not a scientist, but I like to read about it. And they recorded it. And what it found out was that the particles pattern changed whether it was being filmed or not filmed. So it had this crazy aspect of self-awareness, and it just blew science wide open. And I think there's just so much we don't know, and we're so limited in understanding behavior, just in general, that this new technology will give us the opportunity to look at things and understand things that's going to be so deep and so fast. I don't know. And I do think that at this point, math has been our biggest ally as far as understanding ourselves and the universe and our place in it and how we make choices and decisions. It's going to be a little scary because I think our reality is going to change so fast.
Yeah. I think you are talking about double slit experiment. And
yes, that's it. Yeah.
It is very revolutionary, like the observer effect. And I think one area where we can use AI is to help us in discovering this phase of reality, like what is the reason behind what we are observing, so how it works.
Yeah.
But still, it's very complicated to like understand this whole reality and complexities of human emotion through just math, because I think even if you consider it as a complex system, there are still no binary choices when it comes to just of it. Like at the core, there are very few binary choices, and as people say, like everything is not black and white, and there's a lot of gray in between, and people are so yeah. There's something which I think a lot of intelligent people need to think together, because this is I think we are at the point in the civilization where it can go either way.
I agree. I also think there's, we can predict to a certain degree, but there is an element of randomness in everything and chance. And, we could go way, way out there into the quantum world, but some things are predestined and some things have an element of chance. I don't know what an AI with an intelligence of over 1,000 would do or could predict or would understand from our little puny level. We're like little ants to it, like I don't know. And I agree. Here's my thought. We're either going to end up in like some kind of scenario where there could be advanced military positioning and use of AI in a way that half the world won't be able to defend themselves against because they don't have the capability, or they're coming into this late. And there could be a very big split between who's in power, who's not, who has money, who doesn't. We really could end up into a very polar kind of situation. Or we could end up in a place of incredible creativity, and this could bring in a whole new age, a whole new renaissance. And I feel like it really could go either way. I agree with you. It's up to us, and I think the next 2 years, 3 years will be critical how we survive on this planet and how we decide to move forward, because we are creating bigger and bigger and bigger and more powerful technology, and we're just about to create something more powerful than ourselves. Yeah. And I don't think we're we're super flawed. Like, I'm not really sure what we're going to do.
And how are we sure that the genie is already not out of the bottle?
How do we what?
Like, how we are sure that it has not already has happened? Like,
it's out. Like, it's way out there. It's been there. Some of it has been there for a while. Like, if you've ever had to deal with facial recognition for your phone, it's over. Like, this is, I don't mean to be a doom and gloom, but this is what people need to understand. You cannot rebel against this. You cannot pretend it doesn't exist. You cannot put your head in the sand, or you can, but it's not going to benefit you. And there's no, it's sort of like it's futile is the way I think about it. It's here. It's been here. You might have not been aware of it. It's already too late. It's accelerating. There's so much going on behind the scenes we don't see because companies are keeping the development of their products quiet because they want to compete in the marketplace. I don't know how else to say it, but people, it's time to wake up. You've got to wake up. You've got to wake up to what's happening and get yourself involved.
But even if they wake up, like, what choices do they have now?
So right now, I think the choices are talking to government officials, getting on board in small groups. We can do a lot when small groups mobilize and come together. I think the more people that come together and begin a discussion about this, the more power that you will have. We actually can do a lot if we come together.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even in the third world countries, it's very necessary to be involved in this conversation, because if you're not involved, then you will be lost and your opinion will not be counted in, or your opinion will not matter.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. And, honestly, I'm a super shy, super introverted person. And for me to come out and be in front like this, I understand introverts, it's really hard, but if you're called to this, if you want to lead in this, if you have some opinion and something to say about this, educate yourself and get into a group, because more people equals more power and a larger voice, and we need you.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think somehow creatives have come to the forefront of this. Maybe it was Midjourney, or maybe it was ChatGPT, which made them realize, okay, now this is something serious or something. Because I remember I watched a documentary a long time ago, and there was some talk about how robots in the future will replace every manual labor. Like there will be no need of someone to do some hard task or drive a car, simple car, like stuff like that. And at that time, I was to think like the human qualities are the piece of meat we have here. Like this is what separates us from the animals, and our everything we do, like the millions of years of evolution, doesn't matter. It can easily be replicated by machines. Now, 10 years later, it is completely opposite. Like every cognitive task can be done by a software, a piece of code, or a machine. And the things we used to consider so trivial, like walking or driving a car, it is much more complicated to master that. So yeah, I think in the future it's gonna be the same. Like we will be struck like what is to be human, and that question, I think it's gonna come back in any one form or another.
It will. There'll be, I'm sure, lots of different iterations of that. But for the creative people, I think the reason they're at the forefront is because AI is now really taking over the creative industry, partly because there's money there. To be working in the creative industry, there's money. Yeah. If you are Adobe and you put AI into your software and you make it really powerful and competitive, you're going to make money. All the creative people who have to work in, I work in Illustrator and After Effects and Photoshop and InDesign and blah, blah, blah. I need that software. So it's now all about this competitive advantage, and creativity for a long time has sort of been the special tech, area where you can get a really good high-paying job. It involves a lot of thinking. You can be really engaged. You have a lot of power. So of course, the AI will be directed now into places where there's a lot of repetition, there's a lot of technology, and there's a lot of money.
Yep. And there was, I think I was too naive to understand this, like how powerful creative people are, especially after the industrial revolution. I think creatives and advertisement, pretty much in the capitalistic world, creatives have much more power than they realize. Like they pretty much shape the opinion of,
that's right,
possibly the whole world through the content they create, through, let's say, movies, the culture. I think the culture is created by creatives.
That's right.
Yeah.
Artists have always been at the center of culture, always, whether it's creating work or rebelling against whatever. there was some saying, I'm going to misquote this, but basically, artists are very dangerous people because they mix with all classes of society. So if you have that kind of power, why wouldn't you want to harness that for money? It's really, creativity in general, if you even look at it as an abstract concept, that's what creates everything. It's very powerful.
Yeah. And I think the focus of today's general debate around this is like a lot of people are going to lose their job.
Yeah.
And I think it's much more greater than that. Like, it's not just about the job.
Mm-mm.
Like, you are giving a power to possibly shape your culture into entity which we know nothing about, or which we have no control over.
Yeah.
Or very few people have a marginal control over.
Yes. Yeah.
So that needs to be said out loud and clear. Like, this is not about us losing our job. It's about the whole society.
Yeah, it's way past. If you're still stuck in, I'm going to lose my job, you need to read more.
Yeah.
Because that was last year. Yeah, people will lose their job, especially if you're in production. I'm going to say it again. I said it on another podcast I had a few weeks ago. Train yourself. Get out of production. Your job will be taken over probably in the next 2 to 3 years by AI. If it's not happening already, it will happen. How do you retrain yourself? This is, kind of the question. Where do you go? And I think, at least in the beginning of this, mastering the new technology that's coming in will buy you some time. But eventually, the entire landscape is going to change, and I don't know how to predict that because I'm just an artist, I'm not a scientist. I don't have that kind of mind, but because I'm a designer, I'm really good at seeing pattern recognition, and I can see future patterns coming, which is also why designers are so good with trends. We are very sensitive to patterns. So I can kind of see the writing on the wall. And if you don't yet, this is your chance. And I'm going to say it again, get out of production and start mastering AI. So to buy yourself some time so that you are able and in a position to, one, support yourself and your family, and two, so that you have some power to choose what you're going to do in the next 5 years as our world changes. And three, get involved with other like-minded people and form groups and start talking.
Definitely. Because I think we are in the transition phase where we have to figure out this whole capitalistic system. How is it, how the economics going to work? How is it going to trickle down to the bottom? And because I don't think the productivity will be affected when AI will take over massive services sector. So the productivity will be through the roof. So it comes to that decision, like how we divide the wealth. And I think the debate, which a lot of people are not very, they don't want to discuss this, but it's going to come to that, how we're going to build our society moving on. So all that terms like universal basic income and universal healthcare, it comes into, you have to consider it now.
Yeah, you do. You need to consider the next 5 years. AI is all over the place. It's really in healthcare, and in healthcare, it's going to do amazing things. It's going to solve huge problems. But again, what I think we're going to be seeing is it's already happening, where the middle class is disappearing, and there's a potential for it to be the super rich and the super poor. I hope that doesn't happen. I think that that's a really dysfunctional society, personally. But the more you know, the more you read, the more knowledge that you have, the better choice you can make about yourself and your future. And I would love to say it's going to be a golden age and a renaissance and wonderful and creative, but I know us as humans, and it's going to be a little bit of both. We're going to see a lot of light and a lot of dark, and it's really important to protect yourself, protect your livelihood, protect your care of your body, protect your food sources, your water sources. All of this is going to come into play.
Definitely. And I think, as you said, we will see light and dark, and I think it's gonna be just exactly the same. Like things will be wonderful, and on one end and on another end, I think we are witnessing that slowly, and we are already in the transition phase, and we are not realizing it.
Yeah, a lot of people are just waking up to it, and I want to get your attention. Wake up, wake up, wake up. You know, see what's happening. Get involved. You know, I really don't want people to suffer. I'm really a big advocate. I don't want people to miss this opportunity to kind of secure your foundation in your life before things really change. And we might get lucky and the government might get it together. I'm not going to depend on that. Yeah. But maybe someone will go, oh, we need to do something about this. But that process is so slow that you really have to be your own advocate.
Definitely. And judging the track record of governments all over the world, the governments are only slightly better at damage control rather than predicting a disaster.
True. 100% true. Yeah.
So,
and
yeah,
I don't know, you know, it's hard because here I am advocating for AI and I love it and I'm weirdly good at it because I have some gift with language I didn't realize I had, and it's I just randomly partnering with my visual acuity. So I'm lucky, but I may not be lucky for long. I'm just lucky enough to see what's possible and to see the dangers and to be able to speak to it. But I'm also really, really concerned. Yeah. And I love it and I'm scared by it. And then I also get a lot of trolling from, that I'm destroying artists and I'm evil because I like AI and I'm not really an artist, which is really funny. If you know anything about me and my past, that's really an interesting assessment. I just happen to be at the right place at the right time with the right ability. It's nothing more than that. And I don't think I'm special more than anybody else. I just want people to not suffer.
Yeah, I think the watchdogs will be the target of common people because they don't want their illusion to break. And sadly, the watchdogs are right at this time because they haven't seen the potential or this technology has. They have just taken a sip of what is there.
Yes. Yeah. It's like anything, when things are developed like the nuclear bomb that could have incredible potential to create energy and help us and do great things, and what do we do with it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Because I think we had some transition phase, or there was some time for us to assess the danger, then get serious, and then figure out, okay, this can get way out of hand.
Yeah.
But now what I'm seeing, that time period, it's gonna be, or I think we are already in that time period, and we are not understanding the dangers it poses. Because it's not apparent. You cannot see people dying just because of or getting a radiation burn or seeing a big explosion. It's not visual. And it goes back to our old animalistic tendency. When we not see imminent danger, we are not going to react towards it.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, some people might think this is slightly paranoid, but I can assure you it's not. Just because you don't see it, feel it, it's not in your immediate field of awareness doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Doesn't mean it's not going to affect you. And rather than be surprised, I just would really recommend that you read more.
Definitely. And I think as a creative, as a watchdog, it has become our job now to communicate to a common person that how it's going to change their life in next 6 months or 7 months or in next 2 years.
Yeah.
Like how it's going to trickle down to everything.
It will affect everything. And I'm sort of like I have sort of a protector personality, and I can't help but not think about everybody and everything in nature and all the animals. Like my mind just explodes with some of this. And it is our job, you know. Let me back up, just make 2 points. I think that, you know, there was a time when books all went digital, and there was all of this, you know, it's going to kill the industry. People won't read anymore. People will be less educated. And there was all this fear and hype around it. It did kill a big part of the industry. A lot of libraries are gone, which is not great for people who don't have access to technology and books, because they should have the right to learn. But it became more of a niche. And then you had audiobooks, and then you had digital books and the Kindle and all these things that kind of responded to the change of the industry. So what I think is going to happen for the creative field specifically, it's not going to go away. It's going to become more niche and more sort of like, what's the word? Like when you have something that's created that's really special and like an artisan, like super high end kind of experience, that will always be there. But anything that can be replaced with generic content will be replaced.
Definitely. Yep. It's like replacing all the restaurants with McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And there's a few 5 stars left, you know, and it's like this really special experience, you know, but you need a lot of money to be able to go there. It's going to be like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's like
looking into future, I can see the clear divide between have and have nots, because it's going to be there, like to see the handcrafted content or to enjoy that experience, you have to pay for it.
You have to pay for it. Exactly. Yeah. That's it. You know, and we have some of that now where you pay for really special experiences and you pay a lot of money, or, you know, special vacations, special dining, you know, and that will become incorporated into all of our jobs. So if a robot can do your job, then if you're not at a high level of thinking or performance, or your job isn't connected in some way to nostalgia, I think you will be moving into a different area. And I have no idea what that looks like.
Definitely. I used to think like at least human to human interactions would be something which humans can only have, like that level of intimacy, and that that is like that assumption is broken away now. When I saw the documentary, like we have already accepted that we can be as intimate or as, because I have seen the decrease in human interaction over my short lifetime. Before that, it used to be hours of time spent with friends in person. Now it's reduced to like sharing memes and posting pictures and just commenting on each other's stuff.
Yeah. It will be interesting because there's always a backlash to that, you know, like we'll jump all in, we'll think it's great and fun. And then we're like, ooh, this kind of feels exhausting, or this doesn't feel great, or I'm actually really lonely in this and I'm not getting what I need out of this. Because we're hardwired as humans. We need certain experiences, even if we've developed this world around us. It doesn't always line up with that we're in these, you know, animal bodies, and the animal body needs certain things to trigger certain experiences. It's not to say we won't master how to do that for each other. That's very possible. But I always notice when we go really far in one direction with change, we come way back and then we'll hit some kind of center point. I do think, there's a lot of talk right now about loneliness and the pandemic and Zoom fatigue and everything we just went through.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have more of that. There'll be another level of that, of like, okay, so I really want to talk to a human. Enough with this stupid robot, right? It will have all that. It will come to that, and the robots will find their place in our world, and we'll find our place with each other. It's just going to, what's the word? The pendulum is going to swing.
Yep, definitely. And the only worry which most of the people have, like during this transition, we should not let allow the system we have around us to get destroyed in this transition phase, because it's highly possible for that to happen.
It is. And also there's an addictive component to some of this, in the way that it triggers dopamine and plays with our brain chemistry. And I do think education around this, just like, around social media too, like how many hours are you sitting there scrolling and there's no reason? Why are you stuck there? And are you addicted to your phone and to social media? And there is an addictive component. I've caught myself several times like, what am I doing? I've been here for 2 hours. God, get outside, go outside, so understanding how technology affects you in good and bad ways, regulating that in your life, making sure you're taking care of yourself, because we are in bodies, and not having to have really horrible repercussions later in your life because you didn't take care of yourself and you were stuck in some weird serotonin bubble online, and you're not good,
Definitely.
The mental health.
I think even talking about this kind of stuff is a luxury, because I see this every day around me. I have seen, like, people have gadgets in their hand. Like in India, almost everyone has a smartphone. Almost every family has 2 or 3 smartphones.
For sure.
So, but they do not have that understanding of what type of content should we consume and should we let our children consume. So then I have seen children watching the content which even I would not watch at this age, because I think this is so dumb. Like, it's not doing any good. It's harming their brain. Like this, I cannot even describe like what the piece of content. There's no meaning behind it. It's just like visual, something to, like in children's brain, something to release dopamine or serotonin, whatever it is releasing, just to keep them hooked. And they don't even watch the full thing, like 15, 30 seconds, next video. And now there's shorts, so they don't even have to watch that. It automatically goes to next video. So the awareness is not among the people. And I think it has become now a responsibility of those who understand or those who have awareness to let the people know.
I agree.
Force them to do something, but educate them, like, okay, this is doing this.
Yeah. Education will be a big component. I heard someone the other day talk about how we need to be aware as parents, but also aware that we're parents of the AI itself, and to think of education and integration and mental health and awareness of how this affects our life and our chemistry and our attention span and our ability to learn and to connect with others. Because I don't know if you've ever sat next to someone who is just endlessly scrolling on the phone where you're trying to talk to them. It's really not fun. It is not pleasant. And nobody likes it. And we're all engaged in it. And I personally really hate it when I'm being ignored for a phone. And it's just, learning how to navigate these and reduce your time online. Now you can look at your phone, you can see, I've spent, my screen time is here, and I can set limits and alerts, get up, go outside, do these things, because so much of the thinking is being done for us that you want to be careful that you don't give all your power over to these devices, because they'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. This type of content has become, I think this is a nightmare fuel, because this is so much real.
Yeah. I mean, one of my goals is to try and help this be less of a nightmare and more of a renaissance. That's kind of my I've put my stake in the ground. That's education and creativity, and more of a renaissance where we are expanding and understanding more as humans and evolving, instead of going the other way and fighting and dominating and creating more poverty and scarcity. So
definitely. And I think we need more human conversation in future.
Yes, lots more more humans, please.
Not just fighting over a battle on Twitter. It's not worth it.
Oh God, Twitter. Don't get me started on Twitter.
Yeah, now we have threads now, so it's not.
Yeah, I like threads. Threads have been great so far. Much happier. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Sorry, Elon.
Hope it stays that way.
Yeah. Twitter became really hard to be on. Yeah,
definitely. So thanks again for having this conversation, and I think we need to have this conversation with, I think, most of the people who are in the places of power, to communicate what we are thinking and what our perspectives are on these things now. So thanks again for having this conversation, and please let our audience know where they can learn more about you and join you on your mission.
Oh, well, my company is called Kramanti, CRAHMANTI. I'm all over. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, on Threads, on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. I try to make myself pretty accessible to people if you want to talk to me or approach me. My website's kramanti.com. And or you can just search my name, Heather Crank. I will just come right up.
Awesome. And thank you everyone for listening. And
thank you.